So, brothers and sisters, Raven here to go a little further with what I talked about last week. Having thought about it, I realized there was another side to it that I probably should go into, because I know it's another reason a lot of people would want to possibly do something like Homestead Heritage. And this is one that I think is an issue far too many places beyond just a group like that. It's just for them, I feel like it's gone a little more extreme than most. To do this, I'm going to have to go into something much more personal. One thing I've struggled with in the past quite a bit is something that just about every man has struggled with at some point. Not all, but most. And that's porn. For me, it was a bit different, though. In a good and bad way. You could think it's good, but really ultimately it made it worse, because it made it more difficult. Usually when it went more extreme, when there was a lot more shown, when it was more of what you really would consider when you think of porn, I couldn't stand it. I hated it. I thought it was disgusting. It literally grossed me out. So it was the more subtle things. The little things, the kind of stuff you wouldn't necessarily make as much of at first, but got worse. And the problem with that was Satan could use it. Saying, look, what you're doing isn't that bad. It's fine. It's not that big a deal. Why not? The Bible doesn't speak about that specifically. It's the way he works. It's what he would do. And I struggled with it constantly. Then about 5 years ago, joined a home church. It was amazing. It was a time where all of a sudden it stopped. After a little bit, I wasn't even tempted by it. I just was too busy. Not in that I had no time or I was too overwhelmed, simply because I had finally found what I did want to do. My focus had changed, and I started doing more for the Lord. However, after a little over a year, I wanted to join a place where they'd meet for support groups at a church. I wanted to help. I struggled with depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts in the past, and I wanted to help others who were going through it. Then it happened. We were getting together in a small group, started asking, what's your struggles? What are you fighting? And if you didn't have anything in particular at the time, the question would turn to, what have you struggled with in the past? And that was the mistake. That was when the temptation started pouring back in. That's when my mind got back on where it shouldn't be. That's why what I see happening in places like Homestead bothers me so much. You add all these rules, all these regulations, some of which don't even matter, have nothing to do with your sin. They're just there as extra rules. All that's going to do is put your mind focused on the sin. Our mind shouldn't be focused on what not to do, but what to do. It's the only way to keep the temptation away. You stay focused on, I gotta avoid this, I gotta avoid this, I gotta avoid this. You're just gonna be thinking about that constantly. You're just gonna be thinking about sin. That's not gonna help. At first it may seem to, because you're fighting it so hard, but eventually you're gonna break down. You think about Jesus saying, cut off your right hand if it causes you to sin. He's saying, cut it off, throw it away. He's not saying, give it a small cut, beat it, smash it, break it. No. Get rid of it. Stop focusing on that and go to something else. Focus on what you're going to keep. Focus on the hand that didn't cause you to sin. That's the problem I see, not just at Homestead. I see it in most churches I've been to. Can depend somewhat on your denomination. It can go too far the other direction, but where I'm from, that was the primary focus. And all it did was kept me thinking about that, kept me tempted by it. never gave me anything of what I needed to do. The other problem is being so focused on the sin not only is about what not to do, but what man thinks you should do. What those leaders of the church think you should do, especially a group like Homestead or a cult. It's about what the leaders there will think of it. That's where your focus gets to be. And that's wrong. What does God have for you to do? Because you can't beat it. You can't defeat it. But He can. He's the way out. Not the teachings of men, not the rules of men, but His. And what did He say was the most important commandment? Love the Lord your God and love others. Love. What to do. That's why it's freedom. Many people have been confused. You talk about freedom from sin. All it's doing is putting rules on you, so how is that freedom? It's because your mind gets so overcome by them. Your mind is unfree. It's trapped within them. He wants you to be free of it. Not focused on it. Not concerned with it. Not worrying about it. Not overwhelmed by it. Free of it. That's why it's freedom. And that's why places like this, I fear, take away that freedom. Prevent that freedom. And only add more regulation. Only add more rules. Because otherwise, they feel like it's not working. They're falling into sin again. Let's make more restriction instead of let's go to the Lord. They get too stuck on here's what God has for us to do, not what does God have for you to do individually. He's got a purpose for each of us. On that white stone, everybody has a name that's unique to them because He has a unique purpose for each. And that's what matters. What is His purpose? What does He have for you to do? Not what not to do, what to do. I'm going to push that over and over and over because that's the problem. It was that focus that got me away from it. It was that focus that helped me stop being tempted by it so constantly. And I hate to say it, but that's what bothers me most about what's happened with my brothers and sisters, because I can see that in several of them. I remember they had that focus. It worried me. It bothered me. I'd mention it a couple times indirectly to see if I could get them to think about that, but never had an effect. How little effect, I feel like that's why I need to be more direct now. Stop focusing on your past sin. The only one who can judge is God, not you, and He let it go. So stop focusing on that. Move on to what He has for you to do. He's already defeated it, and it's finished. God bless.